Welcome back. All right, so today I'm going to be going over some personal finance and banking information with you. So we're going to take a look at checkings and savings, and I'll also take a look at some other investment options like certificates of deposit known as CDs, bonds, mutual funds, and stocks. So I just thought if we're going to interrupt the fundamentals of it all to bring you personal finance, that I would be reading from you the best definition of personal finance that I have ever seen. So here it is. Personal finance refers to all the financial decisions an individual or family must make in order to earn, budget, save, and spend money over time. I don't know why. I just feel like that's perfect. It's you, it's your family, what you have to do to make money, what you have to do to budget your money, to save, what you have to spend your money on. It's pretty basic to me. So we're going to start with Banking 101, and I'm going to go over with you guys the concept of a check. So not a lot of people, and I used to work for a bank when I was in college, and not a lot of people really know the different parts of their check. So let me break it down for you. Here is a massive, massive check. And you can see that there's a series of numbers here, a series of numbers here, and then a number here. This series of number right here, this is something called a routing number. That's like a number that your bank identifies as. So every single bank has a different routing number. And so for example, if you bank with Get Money Bank, all Get Money banks have the same routing number. Versus that bank over there has a different routing number too. So it's like their number identification. And then this set of numbers right here, this is actually your checking account number. And then this number far over here is your actual check number that you're on. So you'll notice this number and this number are the same. When you write a check, if you guys ever get to that point, the pay to the order of, that's who you're writing the check to. You write long, you have to write it out, you have to write how much you are paying them, and then you're going to actually put the numerical number that you wrote out here. So for example, I would have to write out $100, and then right here I would just put 100.00 pay to the order of Ted Ludford, my dog, because he gets an allowance. And then of course you've got memo. This is to remind you what that check was for, because sometimes we forget, and then sign it. And that's just to show that, hey, I acknowledge that I am paying this person this amount of money for this thing on this date. Thank you. Checking. All right. The other way that you guys can put your money away instead of just spending it through checking is through a savings. And a savings account is simply a place that you can store your money and you have access to it at any time for the most part. And that is what we call liquidity of money, when money is easily accessible and you can get it anytime you need it if you have it through an ATM card or through swiping a card at a store. That's called liquid money. So a savings account is essentially liquid money because you can go to the ATM and take it out, or go to a teller and take it out anytime you need it. This is what a savings deposit looks like, and I'll have bigger images for you guys too in just a little bit. And then this is what we call a passbook savings. It's like a ledger or a spot that you can keep track of all of your money. Now, back in my day, we actually did fill these out by hand just to make sure that we had money in our account, and it was important they always had it on you. So if you ever used your check or cash, took out cash, you could keep a record. If you ever made a deposit, you could keep a record. So that's savings. Now, in just a second, I'm going to pan over and I'm going to show you guys the differences between some other investing and savings things. We've got, still within the bank, things that you do at a bank. We still have the idea of bonds, They are like government bonds or bank bonds that you can buy, and we'll talk about those. We've got CDs or certificate of deposits, which I told you about. And then outside of the bank, we will actually look at 2 additional things that you guys can do to invest your money, which is to look at stocks. And there are stock markets high risk. The riskier it is, the more money you stand to make. And then you've got low risk, which is the opposite of that. The less money, the less risky it is, the less money that you're going to end up making. But hey, you're also not going to lose any money. So we'll talk about those momentarily. And we'll also talk about something known as mutual funds, which is mixing those super riskies in with those not so riskies, so that way it could be a wash, and no matter what, you're not going to lose all of your money, and you could still stand to make a lot of money. So we'll talk about those too. Stay tuned. So a certificate of deposit is a deposit that you promise to leave in the bank for a specific amount of time. Usually it's a year or more in exchange for a higher interest rate. Certificate of deposits are good for when you know you can leave your money invested with the bank. Bonds are a great type of investment which help you finance government or corporate debt or to support a public construction process. The idea here is that after a very long period of time, you get your money back plus that interest. A lot of times, grandparents love to buy their grandkids a savings bond. If you really want to take a risk for the chance of getting a high return and more money on your investment, you can option to open a stock, which is a share of ownership in a corporation. We'll get more information on this whenever we start exploring exactly what a corporation is and how they have stockholders and how they can pay out dividends or pay for their increase in their stock value. So a mutual fund is a pool of money from many investors, and they use it to buy a variety of stocks and bonds. This makes their investment less risky because they're pooling money to do it together, and there's a mixture of high risk and low risk, which means they're safer than a high risk. Now notice for a lot of these investments, I keep mentioning the term risk and the other term return. So let's take a look at a hierarchy of risk versus return on our investments. For here, we're going to say risk versus return. Risk is how likely are you to lose your money, and return is how likely are you to get your money back plus a lot more money for your investment. Notice that all the way down at the bottom with the low risk, low return is going to be our savings. Next in line with a little bit more risk and a little bit more return is going to be your CDs or certificate of deposits, because you have to keep them with the bank for a certain period of time. After that, we've got bonds, which is a longer period of time, therefore more risky, but you get a little bit more return. And then from there, you have mutual funds, and those mutual funds were the mixture of the low and high risk stock options. So those are going to have a little bit more risk, but you have more chance of getting a higher return. And then finally, you have a high risk stock. A high risk stock is ultimately the most risky, but you stand the chance to make the most money with your return. And that's the risk versus return on your investments. Till next time, guys.